Welcome, everybody, to Coming Home with John Allen. This is the segment called Coming Home Commentary. Welcome, everybody, to this edition of Coming Home with John Allen. I'm going to give you a little bit of Coming Home commentary. I'm solo this time. I'm just going to talk to you. I want to share with you something that's going on over here in Norway. And regardless of where you're watching or listening around the world, I think this can apply to you. What am I talking about? Teenage crime, organized crime among teenagers. They're talking about it here in Norway. There's a very popular debate program here in Norway called Debatten. That's the Norwegian word for debate. Great program. They bring up some very interesting issues. In a recent episode, I believe it was yesterday, possibly the day before yesterday, they were talking about teenage crime and teenage organized crime here in Norway. And for this session of Coming Home Commentary, I'm just going to lay out for you the situation as it stands in Norway. And then in a later edition of Coming Home Commentary, I'm going to talk about solutions. Now, I have a lot of suggestions for solutions, but I want to wait until another episode of this Norwegian debate program called Debatten, where they are going to talk about solutions, and then I want to share with you all what they came up with and compare it to what I have come up with. Okay, here's the issue as it stands right now. I'm going to give you a few of the participants in the recent debate on the Norwegian program Debatten. We have a gentleman by the name of Romero Serrano, a gentleman. He's actually a young man. He's 15 years old. And in this debate program, he gave his account of how things are happening in the schoolyards, on the roads, on the way to school. He spoke about how kids his age are approaching other kids his age. Some of these kids are 14, some of them are 16, 17 years old. But they're in a group, a gang, if you will. They love to refer to these groups as gangs here in Norway. A gang will come up to one student and rob them, threaten to beat them up, things like that. And according to young Serrano's account, this happened to him in Oslo. And a bunch of adults were standing around and they did nothing. Okay? That was his. Some people will just minimize that to an anecdotal account, which it is. But let's be real here. This is happening quite often to several young teenagers here in Norway. But that was young Serrano's account of what happens. We also have a former local Oslo, I don't live in Oslo, but a local politician in Oslo for the Workers' Party, Arbeiderpartiet, as it's called in Norway, by the name of Sarah Golen, Gaula, and I may be mispronouncing her last name. She is no longer in the Workers' Party. She's stepped out of politics as a representative of that political party. From what I understand, she's still active across the political spectrum, but she has dropped out of that political party because she gave an account of how she, as a politician, got involved with rising teenage crime in her neighborhood, Mortensrud neighborhood in Oslo. Things were getting out of control, a lot of robberies, stabbings, threats of stabbing, of being beaten up, shootings. She got involved, Sarah Golan, and her party actually told her, be quiet. Now, this is allegedly, this is her account. Her party told her, be quiet. There's an election. Stop talking so loud about these issues. Now, that's her account. Is it a believable account? For me, it's believable. I can't say whether it's factual, but it's certainly believable. We know the cynicism of politicians. We know the money influence of politicians. Of course, it's 10 times the issue in the United States as it is here in Norway, but these things still play a part. But anyway, according to Sarah Golan, her political party, Arbeiderpartiet, the Workers' Party, told her, zip it, be quiet, we can't talk about this now, there's an election coming up. She, Sarah Golan, gave an account of how in the criminal environments, in the gang environments, they say snitches get stitches. they're saying pretty much the same thing over here in Norway. Now, this is a relatively new phraseology here in Norway, but they have picked up that term snitch. It's gotten to the point, according to Sarah Golan and others, that so-called snitches here in Norway, whether they are adult so-called snitches or teenage so-called snitches, they are being looked upon by their contemporaries, by the greater society around them. They're being looked at as worse elements of society than the actual criminals themselves. Again, Sarah Golan, former politician, dropped out of politics because of threats after bringing a light and actually reporting an incident to the police, shining light on these incidences, and in a particular instance, actually calling the police. And her neighborhood around her labeled her a snitch, and she began to receive threats. They're doing this here in Norway. All of this is according to the account of Sarah Golan on the debate program Debatten here in Norway. We have another gentleman by the name of Gulam Abbas. He is a social worker in Oslo, works with a lot of kids, teenagers, high school age, if you're looking at this from an American perspective. And he mentioned a lack of equal opportunity for free time activities, for guidance counseling, and things like that. He mentioned that as a primary cause for these teenagers ending up outside of what we would consider acceptable teenage behavior. In other words, they've landed into a criminal environment. They have become a criminal element here in Norway. And Gulam spoke very briefly about what he thought was a possible cause. Now, again, the next episode of Coming Home Commentary is going to deal with possible solutions. We're waiting for the next edition of the Norwegian debate program, Debatten, where they're going to gather some of these same participants plus a few others to talk about possible solutions. But Gulam Abbas came with his, if not a solution, he at least hinted towards a solution when he mentioned that part of the reason for these teenagers getting into these criminal activities is because of an unequal opportunity for free time activities, social support in the schools, and he also mentioned racism. I can't wait to hear what some of these Norwegians will have to say about that. Another participant on this debate program was also Kristin Kvigne. She is the leader of the major investigation branch of Norwegian police. It's called Kripos, and she is the boss there. She's called Kripos chef. And she said something that I thought was quite alarming. And again, this will hint to a possible solution, but she mentioned that the Norwegian police have a capacity to handle investigations on only 40 of 100 organized criminal factions in Norway. Let me repeat that. The Norwegian police, according to the boss for special investigations, the Norwegian police have a capacity to investigate, keep an eye on, gather intelligence on 40 of 100 organized criminal gangs. Fascinating. Oh, my mind is racing when it comes to possible solutions here. We're talking about Norway, not Chicago. We're talking about Norway, not New York City. We're talking about Norway, not Los Angeles. Solutions. Can't wait for the next episode. So, we have also one more participant. Her name is Raquel Rode Ness. She is an academic at the University of Southeast Norway. It's locally here in my town. And she spoke about a larger study that she did investigating this phenomenon of teenage crime here in Norway. And she mentioned this whole thing about the anti-snitch, if we can use this term, anti-snitch culture within the teenage gang environment here in Norway. How this anti-snitch mentality, according to her study, begins already in the earliest days of school. We're talking about kids that are 6, 7, 8 years old, and they carry this with them throughout their entire childhood and into their adulthood. And this leads to, and the Kripos chef who was on this program concurs that phenomenon leads to a expansion, an increase in teenage crime and organized crime that involves teenagers. Think about it. When you're learning from a young age not to open your mouth, not to call the police, not to get involved when you see something wrong happening, well, we see the results of that. I can't wait to talk about solutions. I don't like to just leave this problem hanging out there. I've already started talking about it, but I guess the main reason why I'm waiting to come with my thoughts on solutions is because I'm very curious as to what these Norwegian academics, citizens, police folk, and politicians are going to come up with. And then I would like to refer to that in my episode coming up when I give you my potential solutions for this problem. So it's crazy, but I'll give you a hint. I believe that the path towards solving this issue is quite easy. It's quite simple. It's a smooth path. It's a very direct path. It's doable. Okay? So watch out for Coming Home Commentary coming up, where I'm going to talk about these solutions. That episode will fall on a day towards the end of next week. Let's say next Thursday. Follow me on social media at John Allen Official on Instagram and Facebook. And I will post if the next episode is coming on a day other than this coming Thursday. Okay, thank you all so much for being here. Go to my website, johnallenpod.com, JOHNALANPOD.com. That's where you can find my audiobook. Yes, it's me reading it. It's me telling the story. It is I who have written the story. Check it out. Costs you only $5, but that is the best way you can support the work that I do, while at the same time possibly finding the reasons that led me to doing this kind of work. Okay? Check it out, johnallenpod.com. Thank you all so much for being here.